What's up, guys? Mr. Dan here, back again with another review from the game Trilogy, a series of 3 films directed by Toru Marakura that started in 1978 and culminated in 1979. All 3 films star Yusaku Matsuda as a character named Shohei Narumi, where Matsuda plays an assassin, and he's most notably known to Western audiences for appearing in Ridley Scott's Black Rain. Unfortunately, he passed away pretty much as that film was coming out, and I talked about that in some detail in the first review. So if you wanted to go back and watch that review, and even watch the short video I made where I unboxed the set from Arrow, that would be fantastic. They're all going to be in a playlist of 4 videos when I'm finished. So I'm not going to spend too much time setting up the whole trilogy. Let's just get right to the plot of this one. As I noted in the first one, it was kind of interesting that we had a crime drama set in Japan in the 70s that barely mentioned the Yakuza. They were only mentioned indirectly in the first film. The newspapers were blaming them for violence that some violent kidnappings and murders that had occurred in the first film, but they actually had nothing to do with it. Well, in this film, this is about the Yakuza. This is about 2 rival factions of the Yakuza, and one of them hires the services of Narumi for the services that he's known for, which is assassination. Unlike the first film, where he was kind of caught between 2 different defense contractors, in this film, he kind of actually approaches the second Yakuza clan and actually plays both of them off of each other. And if that sounds familiar, you know, that's very much like the plot of the famous Kurosawa film Yojimbo. So it certainly bears some resemblance to that film, plot-wise. Now, when this one starts, it's interesting, because even though this film was made in very quick succession after the first one, it's supposed to be set in a few years in the future. And so he comes back into town dressed just like in the first one, like very slovenly. I mean, looks like he hasn't taken a bath in weeks. And he basically arrives on a ship, and we didn't get the impression in the first film that he had a lot of friends, but he's got a friend waiting for him on the docks who's like waving at him and screaming his name, and he's like thrilled that he's back, but Narumi is just pretty much ignores him. And as I said, the end of the second film kind of picked up on the first film picked up on or established some comedy elements, which seemed a little odd maybe to be tacked on the end of the first film. Well, here they pretty much continue with that, and you have some of that throughout the film, and certainly at the end of the film as well. There's a pretty long comedic sequence at the end of the film where he goes back into his ways of womanizing and trying to skimp out on paying bills. But first, he has this friend who's so excited to see him, he actually falls into the water, and eventually they link up, and they actually go into business together, extorting people who owe hostesses at bars money. So I guess, you go out for a night on the town, you're a businessman, you lie to your wife, you say you're doing something else, and you go conduct some business at a seedy club somewhere, and you end up owing the hostess some money. So they show up at the front doors of these people and start embarrassing them. There's some pretty funny scenes too. But eventually, Narumi is hired to do what he does best. He's trying to stay out of it. And okay, so what happens is we have a flashback where he was hired to do a hit, and he unfortunately is spotted by 2 women. One a woman that works in the office of his target, and then the woman's wife, and he lets both of them live, which is reminiscent of the plots of many films, including Les Samurai, just as one example. And so both of those women come back into the picture later, and it's kind of like there's a tenseness there of what's going to happen to them. Is he going to tie up some loose ends? And there's some sort of romance implied, but he's not really that kind of a guy. And eventually, he, just like in the first film, when it's time to go to work, you get another training montage. This time it's mostly him just running. You know, he takes off the old dirty clothes, and you get to see him work out, and then he puts on his normal attire for conducting business, which we can see in this reversible art even better than the previous poster. It's like a brown leather jacket with the bike gloves, and he basically goes to work, and much like the first film, there's a pretty high body count, and also much like the first film, the police get involved. They're kind of in on some of the crookedness, and he's just got to work everything out. And I'm not really going to go into the plot in great detail. It's basically a guy playing two different Yakuza clans off of each other. That's pretty much it. And now at the end, you know, you're still trying to figure out what kind of a character he is, because he can be mean, he can be nasty, he can be kind of a misogynist. Is he doing that just for the purposes of getting the job done? Not that that really excuses anything, because they're getting the job done, in this case, means assassinating people. But at the end, he does, it's interesting, because he does something that seems to be even cruel, even for him, and then extremely magnanimous, like contrary to his character. Now, as far as the cruelness, it involves somebody being killed, and I'm a little fuzzy on who pulled the trigger, and you also have this sort of sense of fatalism in the film. You know, a few people have survived these Yakuza clan wars for years, and it's almost like they feel like they're a marked time. So it's kind of debatable. I guess it's up in the air about how cruel that scene was. And then, like I said, he does something which seems to go against his character, an act of charity almost at the end. And then, like I said, at the end, it wraps up with him out on the town racking up bills and getting in trouble again. And it's pretty funny, and it's pretty much a very solid follow-up to the first film, The Most Dangerous Game. A little lighter overall, I think, than that film. It continues some of the more comedic elements. Again, very well shot. Music by Yuji Ono is still great. Pretty much everything that worked in the first film worked in this one. So I'm very curious to see how the third one wraps everything up. Hopefully it's a strong conclusion. The tone of this film is not for everybody, but certainly if you've seen the first one and you like it, I'm pretty sure you're going to enjoy the second film. And please come back again for the final review in the series, which will be the Execution Game. And big thanks to Mechagodzilla for helping me keep the page open. And that's it. Until next time, peace out, guys. Thanks.